Welcome to Chapter 3. We're on Lesson 1 and we're moving from addition and subtraction to multiplication and division. Our essential question is, how are multiplication and division related? We're going to relate multiplication and division in this lesson. You can use models to represent multiplication and division. Multiplication and division are opposite or inverse operations. So you can use them to check each other. You can use multiplication to check your division, and the reverse. You can use division to check multiplication. So example 1. Felisa and Mei Ling went to an arcade. They played 4 games that cost $3 each. What was the total cost? Write related multiplication and division sentences to solve. So let's highlight what we need to know. We need to know there are 4 games. Oops, 4. And we need to know that they cost $3 each. And we need to know the question, what was the total cost? But we also need to pay attention to the extra write related multiplication and division sentences to solve. So that's part of the question that's being asked here. So we arranged counters in an array with 3 rows and 4 columns. So the rows going across are the dollars that each game costs, and the number of games, they did 4 games, so there's 4 columns. And if you were to count them all, you would see 3, 6, 9, 12, or 4, 8, 12. There are 12 counters total. So a multiplication sentence, since there are 12 counters total, that would be the product of our multiplication. The number of rows, there are 3 rows. And there are 4 columns. So 3 times 4 is 12. That's the multiplication sentence. Now we have to write the related division sentence. And with division, the largest number is always the first number. So the total is first in the division. And the number of rows, 3. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that's our quotient. And they've got labeled factor, factor. Both of the pieces of a multiplication equation are called factors, and the answer is a product. In division, we have the dividend, which is the largest number, the divisor, which is what we're dividing, and how many groups we're dividing, and the quotient is the answer. And the division will help us check, because what was the total cost? Since it says total, that tells me I want the product. I need the multiplication equation in order to answer this question. So the total cost was $12. And there's that. So I skipped to the next page, 136. And they're giving us extra information before we start the next examples. A fact family is a set of 4 related multiplication and division facts that use the same 3 numbers. A fact family can also be addition and subtraction the same way, because they're also inverse operations. Latanya and her father made an array of buttons. Write a fact family for the array. There are 3 rows, 4 columns, and a total of 12 buttons. So 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, 3, 6, 9, 12, or 4, 8, 12. So 12 is our total. Since that's the largest number, I can just go straight to writing it in the answer of the multiplication and the beginning, the divisor of the division problems. Okay, so now I have my 12. I'm done with that. Now I have 3 and 4. So in order to make two different multiplication equations, oh look, it even shows me the color. Look at that. 3 times 4 will give me 12. And because of the commutative property of multiplication, 4 times 3 will also get me 12. And the colors match. So nice. Now, division, 12 divided by 3 is going to get me 4. And 12 divided by 4 will get me 3. So that is the fact family, what I've just done there. And that will work for any of the multiplication equations. There will always be a division that matches, and there will always be a multiplication that matches the division. Okay, and that is nice because when you get scared of division, there's another way to do it, and I'll show you that. Example 3, Vanessa has 36 books to put on 4 shelves. The same number of books will be placed on each shelf. How many books will be on each shelf? So let's highlight what we know. We know she has 36 books, and we know she's going to put them on 4 shelves. Okay, what do we need to find out? We need how many books will be on each shelf. And another piece of information is the same number of books go on each shelf. That's important too. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to write a simple division equation. Okay, so she has a total of 36 books. 36 books. And they're being separated out or divided into 4 shelves. So 36 divided by 4. You can use a related multiplication fact to help you divide. And this is how I think of it. I think of it as 36 divided by 4 is the same thing as variable or box times what times 4 equals 36. So when I look at an equation like this, instead of reading 36 divided by 4 is something, I read it backwards and I say what times 4 is 36. And for me that's not as scary when I'm thinking multiplication. In any case, 4 times 9 is 36. So 36 divided by 4 is 9. Vanessa will place 9 books on each shelf. And you can talk with your partner about how are multiplication and division related. I did want to talk about these, the fact family, like what you wrote, what we did up here. For example 2 is going to be the same thing as you're going to do for guided practice question 1. You're going to count the number of rows and the number of columns, and you're going to make 4 different equations out of them. 2 of them will be multiplication, and 2 of them will be division. So we didn't have an example of number 2, so I wanted to talk about that. This one only has 2 lines, because you only need 2 lines. But why? Well, in this example, it's a perfect square, because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So since it's the same number, we don't need to switch. We don't need to use the commutative property. And you'll only have 1 multiplication and 1 division. And that's because you can't do the opposite factors there. It'll only be the 1. But this is the only problem that you'll have on the assignment today that has the same number for both the columns and the rows. So don't worry, all the rest of them you will have room for 4. You'll have 4 different equations that can be made for each set, whether it's a model or whether it's the factors and the numbers that they give you to solve it. Also, don't forget when you're doing your work, I know you can get these, you should be able to get these answers pretty quickly, but practice writing that array because that is going to help you in the future. Thanks.